Yeah, so really how your parents handled money really is the key to many of our habits that we have today. So we're a nation of sound bites, right? We have the attention span of a nanosecond. So if you walk away with one idea today, I hope it is that I want you to be confident and comfortable with your money. So we don't have huge amounts of time, so I'm just going to share 3 stories from my book with you this morning. So the first one is listen up. I wish my parents told me to listen closely and trust my gut. So the first story is about Diana. Diana came to me. She was an executive, sat on a bunch of boards. She was so organized and so detail-oriented. You know, like when she came in and you'd look down at her purse, everything had a place, and the phone was in the right place, and the pen was in the right place. And Diana came to me. She wanted to be involved. She wanted to know and understand about her finances. And she'd been working with someone for years. And she just had a funny feeling because the world was getting more difficult, and everybody was having financial problems, global crisis, and yet her financial plan was getting better and better every year. And she didn't understand why her chances for an incredible retirement over the next 30 years were getting better. So she came in and she brought all of her financial plans, and they were all in binders, and they were color-coded, and they were all labeled. Now, don't get intimidated. Not everybody is like that, but she was. And she just was so organized. So we went through everything. I started opening up the binders and going through the plans. And we looked and we looked. And finally, what I noticed was that as I looked at the consecutive plans, the rate of return each year that she was anticipated to make on her investments was getting higher and higher. And the rate of inflation that was expected to happen over the course of the years was going down and down. So, of course, by changing the numbers, her plan was looking better and better. Now, there's nothing illegal about this. We have no idea why this person did it, other than maybe he didn't want to deliver the bad news that things weren't quite as wonderful as she might hope. But the point was, Diana didn't care what the news was. She just wanted to know the truth. And she had a feeling inside her gut that something didn't make sense. So she listened to her gut. So the point is, whether it's your finances or your health, right, or whether you should buy that other house or car or whatever, if you have questions, listen to your gut.
I have a question. Was your advisor Bernie Madoff?
No.
Just curious.
Nope.
I think it was Stanford.
Our next lesson is sweat the small stuff, contrary to some books you've read. I wish my parents had told me the importance of paying attention to the details. My next story is about Tom and Gail, and the story really must start with Tom. Tom had run a very large company, publicly traded, decided to leave the company, start his own company. He was so smart and so in control. He was in charge of everything. He didn't like to have help. He didn't like to have help in his company, and he didn't like to have help with his investments. He did everything by himself. And it wasn't that his wife wasn't smart. She was working on her doctorate. It was just that he liked to do everything on his own. But unfortunately, Tom became sick. So a very close friend of his suggested that he and Gail come to see me. So when they came, Gail wheeled him in, sat down, pulled all the papers out, and Tom said, you know, I've always done this by myself, but now I know I'm going to need someone to help Gail because she's never been involved in any of this. Now, I don't want you to raise your hands here, but think about if you were Tom or Gail in this room, and think about the potential impact of that. So we opened up all those folders and we started going through everything, and immediately what came out like a big old red flag was that all their accounts were titled improperly because they were very wealthy people. And just because they had done their will, they had not retitled all their accounts, their brokerage accounts, their investment accounts, to match what their wills wanted to happen. And when something happened to Tom, there was going to be a large family estate tax bill to the next generation. That was all I needed to see. I closed everything up. I said, guess what? You need to go down the street where you're currently working, and let's get all these accounts retitled. We can work on the rest of it later. And indeed, they left my office, got everything changed, and that was the last paperwork that Tom was ever able to sign. I mean, it was literally that close. So please sweat the small stuff. I know at our table we were talking about that generation, the Depression era generation, right? All the things that they did, those expressions they all had. A penny saved is a penny earned. Money doesn't grow on trees. Nose to the grindstone. And don't put off tomorrow what you can do today, right? Where did they go? That isn't the world we're living in right now, is it? Many of us are part of a two-income household. We're working really, really hard. But we want to be rewarded. As a payback for all that hard work, we think, if I want to buy this, if I want to have this, yeah, why not? We're into that instant gratification. I wish my parents had said, if you can't afford to pay cash, don't buy it, right? I wish they were strong and had the courage to tell me things that I didn't want to hear about my lifestyle. This next story is about a couple that came to see me. And really, the husband came first. And again, we were talking about a story very similar to this in the opposite case at our table. But he really came because he was at his wit's end. His wife and his 27-year-old daughter were just huge spenders. And he could just see that they could not stay on this course, even though they were a two-income family and they earned a lot of money. There was too much spending going on. And here he had this 27-year-old daughter who his wife was still supporting to a huge extent. It was causing horrible friction in their family. And as we discussed at our table, it isn't always the wife that's the spender. There's plenty of cases where the husband is the spender. But there are so many times where we see husbands and wives, because they were raised differently, coming at that whole money thing and the spending and saving differently. So really, he needed a referee. He needed somebody to come in and help them. So we sat down, and believe it or not, it wasn't as difficult as you would think, because sometimes it just takes a third person to be involved in the conversation. And it takes someone to pose the questions, and it takes the idea of putting a plan together. You know, the truth is, they'd never put pen to paper to see what they needed to do and whether or not they needed a compromise. It was just a feeling on her part that she wanted to have everything today, and a feeling on his part that, oh my gosh, if we keep spending like this, we're not going to have anything for tomorrow. So all I did was act between them to get a conversation going, put a plan together. And in fact, what happened was the wife got so involved in this, in the decision making of, well, how much do I want to spend today versus how much do I want to have later? And she was part of the process of making changes. She actually accelerated the changes in her spending habit because she was part of the process. I had a very interesting conversation with a money manager recently. And we were talking about the world and the world problems and the fact that we're going through tough times here in the United States. But in fact, we've always come out on top. And that we shouldn't be despondent. We should have hope. And we should know that there will be innovation in the future. But we should know that corporations can't take care of us. The government can't take care of us. We must become our own world bank. We must take care of ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. And I know we can do it. These are the times that will push us to a new paradigm shift. And I know we can become our own world bank. And I want to leave you with, I wish my parents had told me that the key to having it all is believing that you do. Out of all the people that I see, the happiest people are those that are not dependent on money for their happiness. It's the people that are involved in the relationships with their families and friends and in doing things, and that money is just the conduit to get those things done and to be with those people. So I hope that you will think about how you have it all. I appreciate your time this morning. I hope that you've had some thought-provoking conversations, some things that'll make you maybe take better care of yourself and your own money. I love talking about money and how people can be helped and how people can be more comfortable. So if you belong to an organization or work for a corporation where they like to bring in speakers or they like to educate their people or just have some fun, I hope that you will connect me to them. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them about anything.
About anything.
About anything. World peace,
Open the door.
anything. Anything.
I
Evelyn?
was just gonna, did you bring copies of your book?
I did, and you all get a copy before you leave. I just didn't want to give them to you in advance so that you'd be thumbing through them while I was talking. Thanks. Thank you all very, very much. I hope you've had fun this morning. Appreciate it. I am, because I'm pushing the rug. Grab my books. I didn't, but I got my Gmail, and I can give you a card. Okay.
actually for over a decade. She and her team provide proactive and focused advice and counsel to their clients. Lori's also facilitated many seminars and workshops for me and the companies for whom I've worked in financial planning, retirement planning, and very value-added information for the participants, with me and others receiving lots of positive feedback that it was time well spent, and they were so glad that they came. Professionally, Lori is a vice president of investments and wealth in Houston, and for the past 15 years, she and her team have specialized in financial planning for executives. In fact, I've referred many to her, and they were all glad that I did. Lori received her BBA in finance and marketing from the University of Illinois in 1980, and she received the 5-Star Wealth Manager Award from Texas Monthly in 09 and 10. So we truly have an expert to share her ideas and insights with us this morning, and it is my honor and pleasure to introduce Lori Siegel. Yay!
So I'm not really going to put this on right now because right now I'm going to put you guys to work. So what we're going to do to start with this morning is have some breakfast, some more coffee to wake up. And I want you all to introduce yourselves to each other at your table. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing now. And also, if you do know me, you can talk about how you know me. But most importantly, to get us primed for the topic, if you could talk and share with the table something that your parents taught you about money, or something that you wish they had taught you about money. And that'll get us all primed for later today.
That could take days.
Thanks.
Get started.
Yeah, certainly broke eyes.
I'm the man that I am.
Lori can tell us 10 things.
I am, but I'm not gonna.